Welcome to the Big Picture Film Club. I'm Presh Williams. Today, I'm joined by writer and director Adura Onashile and actor Danny Sapani, talking about their film Girl. Adura, Danny, how are you folks doing?
Really good. Thank you for having us.
So initially, Adura, I wanted to start with you because you're really the you're the writer, director, the creative force behind Girl. And it really examines this sort of relationship between a daughter and a mother in distress, going through this very fraught period of their time, period of their life. And so, what brought the story about? Like, why this story, and why now for you?
Um, lots of things, but I suppose I'm a only child from a single mother, and I hadn't ever really seen the sort of nature or dynamic of my relationship with my mum depicted on screen, and where that intimacy and almost like the lines are blurred between sisterhood, friendship, motherhood, and I've always been fascinated as an artist, like how that shaped me and how what it gave me and what it didn't give me. And I think from especially from a Nigerian perspective, it felt like it was something I never really seen. The Girl is very different to my life or my mother's life because I just sort of took that impulse and made it more dramatic and made it more, I don't know, in theatre I might call it stage worthy. The stakes become much higher in the film than whatever in my life with my mom. But what was super important to me was this sense of love and connection, and where real healing is capable of happening in these sorts of relationships. Yeah, that's it.
And Danny, how did you find out about the project and the film? And like when you sort of read the script the first time, what were your takeaways?
Um, I suppose initially, thanks for having us. Thank you for having this interview. Initially, I was contacted through by Adora, who I've known for some years, and knowing that this was a project that was very dear to her heart, I was very keen to support her in any way that I could. And you know, that aside, when usually when a friend asks you to come and help them out on a film, you know, the initial feeling is that this you're doing them a favor in some way, and that's what friends and artists do for each other. But this really didn't sort of it was very quick for me to realize that this was an incredible script and story that really dives into the depths of a relationship, as Adura said, that you don't often see, and also touches upon many sort of cultural tropes from sort of people of the West African diaspora who are, you know, experiencing some sort of generational trauma. There's the story of the immigrant arriving in a country and trying to sort of navigate their way in Glasgow. I think there are so many elements of this story in particular that touched me very, very deeply. And so I was very, very excited to be involved.
And
And I think it's also, I always forget to include this. There was a very particular moment that it's based on, and it was when my mother and I came to London for the first time after I'd lived in Nigeria for a while. So I think it's really, yeah, Danny's just reminded me that that was also a big part of it. We were put in a place in an estate in Bermondsey at the time, and Bermondsey was really problematic in terms of race relations. And I think we were the only Black family in the whole estate. And as a result, it created a kind of isolation that had a bearing on our relationship. I actually remember it as a pretty good time because I had my mum to myself, but there was no doubt that that environment created a dynamic in our relationship. And I think it was important to get that across in the film. Yeah.
And in choosing the role of mother and daughter, you've seemingly hit the jackpot in this. I think Deborah Lukumenya and Lashanti Bontu as Grace and Amma respectively, one, they play their individual roles amazingly, but their relationship together really holds this, like their tension, their love, their hope, their supporting of each other. There's almost a codependency. Like how was it like finding those two? Because it's like, you know, you have to kind of strike gold twice in this role, and you have.
Oh, that's a nice way of putting it. Well, they're phenomenal actors, you know, and I think more than that, maybe actually they're just phenomenal presences as well. Because for Lashanti, she'd never really done any acting before this. And so, and certainly when I met her, when I first got her video, I was like, this kid doesn't even need to say anything. And there's just this, it just feels like there's so much going on underneath the surface of everything she does, which was good for me because, you know, yeah, it's a quiet film. So that felt very important. Deborah is a little bit more of a powerhouse in that she knows how she has her processes, and she's been through, you know, she's gone to drama school, she's had kind of like lead roles in films before and continues to. And I think the thing about Deborah, every choice she makes, as quiet as her performance seems, every choice is thought about, every single choice. And I think she wouldn't mind me saying that she's quite method in her kind of approach to acting. So she submerges herself completely in it. And for her to be able to do that whilst working with an actor who's never acted before was amazing to me, that she could hold that sort of submersion in a character, but still have space to invite this little 10-year-old into the dynamic. And I also insisted on a rehearsal process before we started shooting, which in my mind was a full 3 weeks, but actually in reality was like half days over 3 weeks. So they had a week and a half, I suppose, of full-time rehearsal. And for me, that was just really about them getting to know each other and feeling comfortable in each other's company. And that definitely comes from my theatre background. Yeah, because I don't think it's something that is often done in film.
And Danny, what was your sort of experience working with Deborah and Lashanti?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is it was just a wonderful experience. Like Adura said, they both came from different sort of entries into this business and into this movie. But both of them just have such a, like you say, they managed to hold an entire movie just mainly between the two of them, you know, and the tension between them, the love between them. It was a very bold strike, to a bold move to make a movie like this, and maybe also, you know, the fact that Deborah is not working in her first language as well. French is her first language. You know, that is also another massive stroke of skill on her part, and one that, you know, Adura navigates all of our performances with great skill. And that was, you know, I think having Adura so sort of invested in the detail and able to help us all find our place. You know, my role in it is very small, but it's an important role, pivotal moment in the film where she finds somebody that she can trust to some extent, you know, and that there is some sort of connection with. And although we all have some kind of, you know, experience of this through the stories of our parents, it wasn't something that we knew. We had to sort of find that space and be very sensitive and true to that storytelling. So it was a joy. It really was, to explore these themes with 3 great artists. It was a real joy.
And I'll kind of open up the floor here, and like in addressing sort of trauma on film, well, I'll start with you, Adura. Like, what were there things that you felt that actually you could put in that were very real to the story, that perhaps went too far and perhaps didn't serve artistically what would work with the audience? And so, like, where did you find that sort of biting point for yourself, where it was kind of like, this is just enough to put in and effectively communicate what I want to say?
Sometimes in script, with Danny and I are smiling at each other because this is like a big discussion we've had. But sometimes with the script, it goes too far, right? And the thing is, you set up a relationship with 2 characters, and every single scene is telling you something about the relationship with the 2 characters. But you have to like go, but that's where they're heading. This really big, massive thing is where they're heading, and we have to show that. But in reality, you've already set the tone in the audience's mind in all the previous scenes. And that was a revelation to me. So I realized that because you kind of have to do it when you write the script, you have to have this thing in your head of where they're heading towards. But the truth is, it's already there from the beginning. And what I learned through the edit process was everything I was so invested in showing in terms of the sort of tension in their relationship, even though it was loving, it was there from the beginning. And I realized, and it was a kind of a eureka moment where I went, oh, that intimacy I thought I needed to show, or that rape I thought I needed to show, actually isn't necessary, because from the very first moment we're watching these 2, we're like, what's going on? Something's not quite right. What's going on? And the story kind of unfolds more through the feeling in our heads as the audience than anything we need to see on screen. And I think that for me was really important. I think there are moments where in film where gratuity is necessary, but in this situation, it was very important to me that we just spent time sitting with these characters instead of them having to justify themselves by these huge things happening to them all the time. Sometimes it happens with characters of color in films. We have to justify our existence for being on celluloid by big things happening to us, big backstories, big, and actually maybe we are at a point now where we can just tell a story and then let a story unfold quietly, because we've earned that.
People are able to engage and to empathize with our stories in a way that maybe they weren't able to do in the past. I think also what Adura is alluding to, is that at times when you write a script, there is a sort of an explicitness that you have to, because if you don't put it down on paper, it doesn't exist really. And then how do you transpose that to the screen in a way that's tasteful, commensurate to the story that you've already built up, the relationships that you've already built into, and also to the characters, but also a sense of hope, a sense that we can still continue to follow these people, and we, on some levels, know that this is going to work out, even if it's going to be a bumpy ride. And sometimes what would you call it? The visual sentence is more constructive and more sort of powerful than the physical sentence that you might have in a script. You can portray that in a visual way, and maybe you've already said it, and so you don't need to say it again. But what you can do visually is just a different language. But there's so much you owe so much to your audience regarding that the investment that they've already placed in that from the very first shot. And I think that this film really does honor the eye you know, the eye that is the universal eye. It's not a white gaze, it's not a black gaze, it's just a universal eye that shares in this experience with the two main characters. And it's just, for my money, it's one of the best films I've ever seen. It really is. It's a wonderful piece of work.